children may be involved in criminal activities, but is imprisonment the only answer to combating juvenile delinquency? The Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act of 2006, or the RA 9344, provides that children at least at the age of 15 are criminally liable, but those younger are only subject to an intervention program. The Philippine House of Representatives is passing a bill expanding the coverage to include juveniles as young as 12 years old. This may be an influence of former President Duterte's war on drugs. However, this is still contrary to our morals and our beliefs on the innocence of a child. At least in most cases, and alternative ways may be done, rather than the said proposal. We stand against the issue of lowering the age of criminal liability from 15 to 12, and we believe that more benevolent ways are preferable to address juvenile delinquency. The proponents of House Bill number 002 argued that it is the way to deter children in the commission of crimes, and that children can just get away in doing more crimes because the law does not include them in the coverage of prosecution. While this is logical, this is not a sufficient argument as there are other lenses to consider in the cause of committing crimes, especially poverty and exploitation. According to a study by Castro and Terzo just earlier this year, the same measure is taken by various U.S. states, but instead of lowering criminality incidents, the opposite had happened.
The lowering of the age of imprisonment is against the rights of the child. UNICEF reacted to the bill proposed by the said congressman, standing against it as it is in violation of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child that was ratified back in 1989. And children may just be influenced by adult perpetrators to advance their motives. Indeed, in Article 6 of the said convention, the state parties must ensure the inherent right of the child to life, and that the state must ensure to the maximum extent possible the survival and the development of the child. The Philippines is also a signatory of the UN Standard Minimum Rules for the Administration of Juvenile Justice ratified in 1980. Provided in Article 4.1 thereof, the minimum age shall not be fixed too low and must bear in mind the child's physical, mental, emotional, and intellectual maturity. The proposal to lower the age of criminal responsibility obviously hampers the development of the child. The government clearly and logically considered the child's connection to illegal activities, but failed to consider that their imprisonment may disturb their development. Their involvement may also just be the result of the lack of economic capabilities and the lack of parental guidance. Syndicates often hire children from modest circumstances or households that lack the asserting presence of the parents. According to a survey of the social weather stations back in March of this year, 2023, 51% identifies as poor, 30% neither poor or not poor, and 19% are not poor. This distribution may just be a catalyst that pushes poor households to resort into crime just to make ends meet. The state obviously failed to commit to its responsibilities, yet prefers to choose for options like imprisoning children instead of developing them and rectifying them. However, the government always has the chance to provide better policies into addressing that issue, and that legislators must give primary consideration to that. Rehabilitation is significantly better than imprisonment. The government already has the Republic Act 9344 or the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act, amended by RA 10630, provides a rehabilitation program for juvenile delinquents in cooperation with the Department of Social Welfare and Development that mostly assumes custody of juvenile delinquents. Rehabilitation will benefit children as they will be reconnected back to society. and mend their relations with their families through intensive counseling that will reform themselves and allow for problems of the family to be addressed accordingly. After all, affording them the chance for reformation and prove themselves will allow them to reform themselves better, rather than imprisonment that help less of their development. In sight of our claims as previously mentioned, lowering the age of criminal responsibility is not the only way to distance themselves from juvenile acts. But as we recognize the expensiveness of reformation policies, it is still a necessary investment to properly reform juvenile delinquents. After all, people, especially children, deserve a second chance towards reformation and care, despite their previous errors to the law.